Are we too stuck in the now? Are we prisoners of the present? I feel as if often we have strange connotations for both past and present. We still fail to see the value in the present moment. I also know that often we are told to remain in the present and focus on the now, but how much of that should we actually internalize and how much should we let go? The past is just a memory of the present moment, right? And I think people fail to realize we have always been prisoners without bars. The present is all that ever has and all that ever will be in this world. There can't be a time where you're in the past. There can't be a time when you're in the future. Because once you're in those times, it is just the present. So, what is left for us to do? What is the point if we are always here? I think that there is a certain power that comes with always being in the present moment. All you can control in this world is truly yourself. And you can only control yourself in the present moment. You can't look back in the past and change the way you went about things. And you also can't change how you act in the future. All you can do is be there for yourself now. Your future self needs you now. I know I said before there is no past self to overcome, but at the same time, your future self needs you now. What you do now will directly impact that. And I think that a lot of people neglect the ability they have to alter their circumstance. The entrapments of our minds often convince us that our control is in matters within the library of our minds. But in thought, we can't do too much but think about certain circumstances. Thought as a tool is great, but thought as a console for predicted action ultimately posits nothing in reality. Our minds only act as stimulus filters, and with thoughts that cause anxiety, we trap ourselves within an unreal stimulus. We trap ourselves within a thought of how things would be rather than how things are. I think that sometimes we are victims to our own mind, victims to the circumstance that we prescribe to our own mind. The things that we allow ourselves to be conscious to ultimately come back to bite us. We are prisoners of the present, but that is in no way bad. I said that there's no past self because you are right here and now. If anything, we should realize that our futures need us. As in, what we do now is important to the present, but is also integral to us continuing to move forward in the future. A lot of us neglect this present moment that we have in order to create the foundations for something even more beautiful. Not to say that everyone's negligent of their ability, and not to say that everyone should be constantly conscious of everything they're doing, because that ultimately is going to drain you. But to the same point, I think that we should at least take the time to acknowledge that we have that type of control. I feel like relinquishing responsibility to yourself is ultimately what leads people down bad paths. It's what makes people feel like they're stuck when in reality they're just not allowing themselves to change. It's what allows you to run from your pain when you're just running from yourself. As in, what we do now is important. What we root in now will eventually grow into a better present. We are more able to sow more seeds into ourselves. The present progressive is exponential. It allows us to change and reinvent who we are in a matter of however long we allow ourselves to take. I'm not saying that it's always an easy feat to change little aspects of yourself, because ultimately it's not. The past self is often hard to overcome. The past stigma we have, the past experiences, the us of the past. We feel like we're letting go of that when in reality, all that is right now. That thought of it is you right now. It's not in the past anymore. You've brought it to the present. I know it's difficult to just change your pattern of thinking. It's really not an easy feat. That's why I promote being conscious of what you're conscious of, because ultimately, what you allow yourself to internalize and think about and accept as fact will eventually become your reality. Reality is perspective. I think that any truth that lies within what we're doing now and who we are is within ourselves. This is just one story being told 8 billion ways. We all have our own perspective. It's like Sonder. Everybody has their own complex life to live, but most people don't take the time to live their own. We live in some type of false reality where other people's present moments and other people's experiences and stuff go out the window, or they're romanticized. Like, we neglect our present moment because we feel as if we should get things instantaneously. It's that short-term gratification mindset that keeps us stuck within a realm of infinite possibility, but low achievability. And that's only because we have the perspective that we're supposed to get everything right away. But good things come to those who wait, ultimately. We neglect the fact that other people have to put in a lot of work and effort to achieve their goals. But is this always a negative thing? No. I think that we should be eager towards our goals. We should want them as soon as possible. But we also have to be willing to put in the work. Who we are is created by the internal, not what is outward. We can't take in what is without, because ultimately what we take in will be what is without. What we allow ourselves to internalize will eventually be our external circumstance. It's just like a law of correspondence. The more we give attention to, the more we will be shown. The more we try to see, the more we will. You look for the negative, and that's what you're going to find. Our minds are great tools, but as I said, they're not a console. This thing doesn't have anything but analysis. It's not your consciousness. Your mind is a separate tool that you use in order to filter out analysis of the world. But to use it as a mediator for certain actions and certain mindsets and certain things like that is ultimately going to do you worse. Unless you're able to take control of your own mind, then you're just going to be subject to the biases of the world around you. The more you allow yourself to consume, the more the negative clouds up your room. And, we fail to start what we should. We fail to start our dreams and plunge towards our aspirations because we don't take that power in the present moment. We don't take the power in our present self. We think that we constantly need to improve, yet we're waiting for the improvement before we start doing something. And I think that's ultimately what holds us back, because the reason you're not doing it is because you're stuck in this place. I think that a lot of people think they can't, and that's why they can't. He who says he can and he who says he can are both right. We can only see 1% of who we are. The other 99% rests behind the image that you put out to the world.